How often do you find yourself going through the Bible, reading the story of the Israelites, and always questioning what in the world are they thinking? Straight out of coming from Egypt, we have them complaining about the Red Sea, which I can kind of understand. But after God had showed multiple miraculous signs and wonders, you would think that would be fresh in their mind and assume that they would hopefully hold hope out that God could rescue them out of this. And then we go to Mount Sinai, where Moses is gone 40 days. Okay, bit long, but is that really long enough to completely forget everything that has happened and then just start worshiping another god, or I guess gods that brought them out of Egypt? Because I guess another benefit of the doubt that they just wanted a visual representation of the God that did bring them out, because that is sometimes something people miss out of the text. But then, multiple times complaining about water, and then given water, you would think they would just kind of think about the signs and the wonders that God had already given them. And then they get to the promised land after complaint and complaint and complaint, and God providing and doing wonderful things for them constantly. They don't think they can get through because there's too much opposing them, even though they just came from a kingdom who opposed them that God miraculously brought them through. You see the pattern I'm getting at? To where it's frustrating because you see these Israelites constantly being given grace by God. Sometimes his patience is tested a little too far. Understandably, he's got to put them in their place. So there are a few incidents where that does not happen, of given grace, but still given grace because anger could have come down a little bit harder, but it did not. The Lord had to reprimand. But yet again, we are hit with more complaints and untrusting of God, not even outside of the promised land, but once they get in the promised land, it is constant battle with the Israelites of back and forth of not trusting God and God giving them reasons for them to trust him, and it just gets frustrating. I know I'm not the only one that will read these stories and think, how many times is it going to take to trust in him? But then you think about your own life. How many times is it going to take you to trust God? Go through your life. Think about all those times. They might not be as extravagant and as wondrous that you would assume God would do, like bringing down 10 plagues, separating the Red Sea, bringing forth water from a rock, making odds account for you instead of against you when there is no reason for it besides serving the God you're serving. It might not be like mind-blowing as those, but how many times has there been miracles in your life? How many times have you been brought through a storm or a battle in your life and there is no reason beyond God? How many times have you yet forgotten those moments and have fallen short like those same Israelites that have fallen short? How many times have you forgotten about God when you're in the midst of a battle, forgetting all those times before where he has brought you through? Sometimes we want to read things and want to put ourselves at the hero's end, put ourselves in the shoes of Moses and David and all these mighty men instead of thinking that we're the Israelites, because it can be easy. And sometimes, yes, it does seem a little bit far-fetched that you would do things so blatantly in the face of God, yet we do. We do things. It might not be as much as putting and creating an idol 40 days after we were given rules not to, or complaining about water when we have already been shown. It might not be as blatant, yet it very much is. How many times have you had something in your life that has taken your attention off God? Your phone, time on the internet, spending time with others, working too much, and just not taking time out of your day, even 5 minutes, to just sit down with God. How many idols do you have in your life? They might not seem like idols, but anything that is taking your attention away from God is an idol. How many times have you been put in a situation to where God isn't the first one you lean on, to where you aren't praying instantly or quickly after about, how am I going to get through this, Lord? I can only trust you. How many times has there been a bill that has been close due or overdue, or you feel like you are, or actually are, on the verge of financial ruin, yet you don't find yourself at God even though He has brought you through every time before? Or if He hasn't, because you haven't asked, maybe try asking and see if maybe you start putting your faith in God like those mighty men and women, because there were very much many mighty faith warriors that were women in the Bible as well. Instead of finding yourself in the predicament of confusion and frustration towards the Israelites, you start looking into your own life about your moments that have lacked faith and start praying for that faith and that recognition in those moments instead. And start working with God like those honored and respected characters of the Bible, because they were not just born that way. They grew up and put foundations of faith and put so much effort into their faith and into their time with God to become that way, and you can as well. But that doesn't mean that once we are at that moment that we stop, because we always need to keep growing. Nor does it mean that we look back on those Israelite moments of others and in the Bible and scoff at them. Remind ourselves that we too were and can be those Israelites and have those Israelite moments. So let's take a moment and ponder the moments in our life where we have fallen short, and remember that God wants us to be humble and not prideful, because pride is the first step away from God, but humble is the first step to growing your faith. God bless you, loves. And let's remember, because it's so easy to forget,